Aaron Douglas was one of the most prominent and influential artists of the Harlem Renaissance, which was also known as the New Negro movement. His various painting styles, along with the racial identity of his art, truly earned him the nickname, the father of African American art. Douglas's art truly emphasized the ideals of the Harlem Renaissance, and Douglas himself was a true advocate of the Harlem Renaissance. Aaron Douglas was born on April 27, 1899, in Topeka, Kansas. He was the son of Aaron and Elizabeth Douglas, and his mother encouraged him to keep an interest in art at an early age. Other than his mother's encouragement, Douglas's most serious decision in becoming an artist came from his exposure to the African-American printer Henry Tanner. Douglas was even quoted as saying, "One day my mother came home with a magazine containing a reproduction of a painting by Tanner. It was his painting of Christ and Nicodemus meeting in the moonlight on a rooftop. I remember the painting very well. I spent hours poring over it, and that helped to lead me to deciding to become an artist." Douglas continued his interest in art throughout his childhood and graduated from Topeka High School in 1917. After high school, Douglas decided to go to the University of Nebraska for college. He began in 1917, and he graduated with a Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree in 1922. The following year, he attended the University of Kansas, graduating with a Bachelor of Arts degree. After graduating from Kansas, Douglas began teaching high school art in Kansas, before leaving to pursue a career in art in Harlem, New York, and in Paris. While in Harlem, Douglas studied under German artist Weinhold Rice, who encouraged him to express racial commitment in his art. Douglas began to explore his heritage using African designs that caught the attention of significant black scholars and activists, such as Allen Locke and W.E.B. Du Bois. Du Bois was so impressed by the work of Douglas that he asked him to illustrate for The Crisis, which was the leading black periodical of the time. Also, Locke asked him to illustrate for The New Negro, which was a classic anthology of black authors that was first published in 1925.
In 1926, Douglas and his new wife Alta traveled to Paris, where he studied painting and sculpture under Charles Despoil, Henry Lequire, and Arthur Frizet at l'Académie Scandinave. Also while in Paris, Douglas had the opportunity to meet his idol, Henry Espoir Tanner. He returned to New York in 1928 and became the first president of the Harlem's Artists Guild. Also upon his return, he was offered $700 to make a mural, which is a large painting applied directly to a wall or ceiling for the Club Ebony. During the Great Depression, Douglas was commissioned under the Treasury Public Works of Art project to paint murals at County Cullen Branch of the New York Public Library in Harlem. These paintings were completed in 1934 and are widely regarded as the most famous and distinctive of his works. Titled Aspects of Negro Life, the series consists of 4 panels depicting people of color from the time of slavery and emancipation in the southern United States to the mass migration into northern cities during World War I. Romare Bearden and Henry Henderson observed his murals, saying, "Douglas endowed his subjects with elegant but powerful distinction. In these abstract silhouettes, he found the opportunity to express the dignity of their lives. The concentric circles of the design create large, wave-like rhythms, which play against the figures, giving them balance and nobility. In fact, these figures have classical start." In 1937, Douglas became a part-time teacher of painting and drawing at Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. In 1944, Douglas received his master's degree in teaching at Columbia University and took up art instruction full-time at Fisk, and eventually became head of the art department, a position he held until his retirement in 1966. Throughout his life, Douglas remained friends with activists such as Langston Hughes, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Allen Locke. In his later years, Douglas experimented with the use of colors in his work, redoing some of the murals he had done in the 30s. At the beginning of his career, Douglas was criticized by many artists, educators, and critics for being base and grotesque in his nature. But by the end of his career, Douglas was credited with creating a unique style of painting by using a flow of circular lines amidst smoothly painted surfaces. Douglas resisted using traditional images to portray people of African heritage and instead chose to use geometric formulas, creating synthesized compositions. Using circles, triangles, rectangles, and squares, Douglas's unique artistic style cemented his spot as the father of African American art. Now let's take a look at some of Aaron Douglas's paintings. The first painting is titled Alta. It was made in 1936 and it depicts his wife Alta. A second painting is titled Building More Stately Mansions. and this depicts slavery and what the blacks had to endure during times of slavery. This painting is titled, I, God's Trombones. It depicts of how God can work through individuals, and it was composed in 1926. This painting is titled, Idol of the Deep South, and it depicts the times of slavery and how racist the South could be. A fourth painting is titled, Negro in an African Setting. This just depicts a woman dancing, and it was produced in 1934. A fourth painting, Slavery Through Reconstruction, depicts the Jim Crow laws and how much they restricted the rights of African Americans, and that he compares the Jim Crow laws to actual slavery because of how restricted his rights were. This painting is called The Creation. It depicts that all men are created equal, and this includes blacks. It was made in 1935. This next painting is called The Crucifixion. It was made in 1927, and it depicts Jesus as a black man. This painting is titled The Old Waterworks. This is a possible image from his hometown of Topeka, Kansas. This painting is titled Is on Gough with Towers. It was composed in 1934, and this is very classical Harlem Renaissance art. This painting depicts a power plant in Harlem. It is titled Power Plant in Harlem.